Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're going to be dismantling the old intake, carburetor, and exhaust manifold on this AMC 258 and my 1973 International Scout 2. We're going to start mocking up some of my new parts that I ordered for it. That includes a Clifford 4-barrel intake manifold, header, and a Weber carburetor, and a whole bunch of fuel goodies, and full exhaust. So this is part one of hopefully a 3 or 4 part series on this section. Let's dig in. We're going to start by pulling the air cleaner assembly off. So a few years ago, I actually replaced the 1-barrel carburetor that was on this. It was plumb shot. Everything, it was, a guy probably could have rebuilt it, but for, I think at the time I bought this on eBay for 70, 75 bucks. It's a 1-barrel Holley. Couldn't really justify going through that old Carter carburetor. So I just went ahead and bought this unit and slapped it on there, and that pretty much fixed my carburetor issues. It needs a little bit, I mean, this is still a really good carburetor. It's just, I don't know, it kind of, I didn't really care for it as much. But anyway, we're going to be fixing that. We're going to go from a 1-barrel carburetor clear up to a 2-barrel. Open this manifold up. Let this little 6 breathe. Fuel line off of there. Try not to dump fuel everywhere. Pop my spring off. And that up there. Pop that clip off of there. It's still in good shape for the throttle cable. Try not to break this stuff. Some of this old Scout parts, well, 90% of it. Thankfully, this is an AMC. I don't have to deal with a lot of international engine parts, but still kind of hard for a fella to find some parts every once in a while. So I try to be as careful as I can be, because you never know what you're gonna have to do in the future. You might need to rob Peter to pay Paul to keep your rig running. So I'm gonna grab a wrench, pull off this choke stove tube, get it out of the way, and I think we can grab a wrench and pop the carb right off. Everything about this little carburetor actually works really well. It's just, I want a little bit more low end, so we're going to open it up with the 2-barrel. Gotta love the simplicity of these older rigs. Pretty sure if you really tried hard enough, if you had a 7/16 or 3/4, 3-pound hammer and a roll of duct tape, you could rebuild this sucker on the side of the road. Can't do that anymore. Golly, the stud on this thing's a mile long. Get out of there. I have to go on the other side to see that one. I have to get a different wrench. My goodness, this thing is 4 times as long as it should need to be. Should have put 1/2-inch spacer on this, got some more HPs. Base plate and gasket. Look at that, it came all off and good. Not breaking anything. I can go right in the box and save for a later date. Depending on how all this goes with the new parts, I may end up listing this stuff on eBay. All the old used parts. For some of you 258 purists, if you guys want it, let me know down in the comments. So now I'm gonna grab a wrench, be very careful pulling these intake manifold studs. Well, these are bolts, and we're gonna hope and pray and cross our fingers that we don't snap any of these. No telling. This engine was rebuilt in 96 or 97. And I highly doubt that any of these bolts have been touched since then. That's why would they, right? They're actually coming out really nice. That's very surprising. I'm not going to say the same for the exhaust manifold. I know I'm going to have trouble there. Somebody's out there in the yard playing with a loader. Good golly. Why won't you just work? Because you gotta have the right wrench for the right job. That's why. Well, there's the first exhaust manifold stud. Technically, well, not first. These share intake and exhaust bolts. They share each other for mounting. So we got the top ones done. Before I jump down and do the bottom ones, I think I'm going to take this bracket off and then fold that throttle cable out of the way. Just keep it up out of the way. Little tip for you guys, something I do every single time I'm tearing something apart. If I can do it, I always like to stick a bolt back where I pulled it. That way the whole cowl or the back seat or the floor or the toolbox isn't full of random nuts and bolts. And you're not coming back 2 months later and going, huh, I wonder what I did with that 1/2 inch by 24 that I need right now. It should be right where I left it. Bingo. Let's pull this negative cable off. This is going to be replaced. Right back there. Alright, we'll pull the bottom ones out. I think I'm just going to start with the intake manifold, not try to take both of them off at the same time. Oh wow, these are coming out really good. I was nervous about this. The guy that built this before me the guy that owned this before me that had the engine rebuilt, which he did it. Did everything right. May have not done it the most expensive way, which isn't the right way every single time, but he did everything right by anti-seizing stuff, etc. One thing's for sure, if you own a Scout, you're going to be working on it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. These little lock and wobbly extensions, let me tell you, they are a lifesaver. These ones are Snap-on flavored, but I know Hobo Freight makes them. Napa has them, the Carlisle brand. Gear Inch's got them. These are worth their weight in gold, fellers. I just can't believe how well these are coming out. 20 years or better, these haven't been touched. I've snugged a couple of the front ones up. It's because I have a severe exhaust leak up front. I think the gasket's just blown out, but I was wishful thinking by, oh, I can just snug this up and the exhaust leak will go away. Wrong. That should be, that is all the bolts for the intake manifold and half of them for the exhaust manifold. I got 4 that join, maybe 2, no it is 4, that join the intake manifold and the exhaust manifold together right down here at the base. And we'll get those off. And hopefully, with a little persuasion, we can just pop that sucker right out of there and lay her on the floor. When you're tearing this old stuff apart that hasn't been touched in years, don't just go grab the impact gun and just start cranking on stuff, because you are going to have more fits than a 3-year-old toddler at his birthday party when his best friend takes his new toys. You are going to be snapping stuff left and right. Just ease on it with a ratchet or a wrench. Don't be jerking stuff around. Oh, that one's tight. I think we're winning. Two up top. Uh-oh. Oh. It started to twist. I could feel it. I'm not super worried about snapping stuff off, but I want to avoid it as much as I can. Because it's not just like a gasket job where I'm going to put this stuff back on. That's just kind of been my rule of thumb as it is over the years working on stuff. Even if you're putting new stuff on, just be easy with it. Grab extension again. I gotta get my tripod down here so I'm not mounting it on the hood, so because every time I make a revolution here, I'm shaking the whole hood, so it probably looks like Michael J. Fox is filming this for me, but he was pretty good in Back to the Future, so I'm not complaining. This one's struggling here. I think we're pulling the whole stud. Maybe not. I got it. All right, that is everything out of this. So before I go any further, I'm gonna grab some compressed air here and blow this all out. I want this as clean as I can get it. Not spotless, but the big stuff out of the way. Should be able to just take a plastic mallet and pop it up off of the base of the exhaust manifold, and then we should be able to just scooch her right out. Be right back. Well, after 14 pounds of 1030 and farm dirt out of my eye, I got it cleaned off. I'm gonna grab a hammer, a little plastic mallet, pop up in the bottom of that intake manifold, get it broke away from the exhaust manifold, and then we'll finagle it out of here. Yeah, right. Bigger hammer. Well, remember when I said that I wasn't going to pull this off with the intake and the exhaust manifold attached? Well, I'm kind of thinking I'm going to do that now, because it's not wanting to lift off of the studs that mount it to the exhaust manifold. I'm sure that thing is just cooked in there. I can imagine. Unless I'm missing something, which I don't think I am. Anyway, I think I'll unbolt the collector down there, snap those off for sure, and then go through the bottom again and pull the rest of the exhaust studs out and just pull it off. Just do the dang thing. Alright, I got the collector unbolted. Down to my last bolt on the exhaust manifold, and it was already moving, so I brought you guys in here. You guys are never going to believe this, but I got to because I did it. Not one bolt, not one nut, not even the collector down there. Everything came apart perfect. And the studs that bolt the intake to the exhaust are fine thread too. I would have thought I would have snapped every single one of those. Oh man, Jesus, that's heavy. Well, there's that. Definitely have some valve seats leaking. Definitely. This little part's been sitting for about 8 months though. I know it burns a little bit of oil, but not a lot. Nothing concerning. You can see some moisture there, and that's definitely oil. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be honest with you. Intake ports are pretty clean. Definitely could do some cleaning on it. But nothing alarming that I'm seeing. It definitely needs valve guides. I want to see how this little guy runs though. I might end up doing a cam in it at some point. See how it responds with just the intake and carburetor and a header, and opening up the exhaust too. I think we're, was it 2-inch right now? We're going to jump up to 2.5 duals. But the beautiful thing about all this for me is I can come in with a wire brush and clean all this up and get it nice and clean. And I should paint it, but I don't have any paint. But yeah, so let's do a little bit of cleaning. Got the head surface all cleaned up. Cleaned a little bit out of the valve cover, side of the valve cover and the side of the block. So on installation, we have to pull that dowel and that dowel out of the head to fit that intake on there. So that will most likely be the next step that I take. I just wanted to show you guys real quick on this exhaust manifold, because I've had a pretty decent exhaust leak. I'm not showing like a ton of evidence of it, but this manifold's actually cracked there. I know I was leaking at the collector. I know for a fact I was leaking there. And see how the bottom of this intake's all sooted up? That's not all just oil, that's soot too. So the gasket itself wasn't making a good seal. Well, I'm not seeing any visible like streaks of exhaust. I mean, right here's obviously a leak there. And then this one was leaking a little bit too. And this is at the front of that head. And this is where every time I'd start it up, I'd hear a tick right there around that area. It also looks like the corner of my block is actually broke off down here. So, I don't know there. It doesn't look like anything's bad. Like we can't go back together with it by any means, but it's interesting because the back side's not broke. And there was a stud in here at one point for, I'm guessing, alignment when they go back on, but it was missing. So I just stuck I think that was a 3/8 bolt in there. Cinched it down, but I couldn't get that to seal right there because that gasket was bad. I don't think it's gonna affect anything too bad by any means, but yeah, so we got her cleaned up. Got probably, that thing's got to weigh, I would guess 50 pounds or better. And this new intake weighs, I don't know, 5 pounds. And the header, another 5 pounds maybe. So adding horsepower, which I'm not building a hot rod, but we're adding horsepower and we're losing weight. So that's good. It's always good if you can do both of those.